Good morning, everyone. I am David Talbot, Managing Director and Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities. Our next presenter is Chris Frostad. He's President and CEO of Purepoint Uranium. Now, Purepoint is dusted off and is exploring several of its high potential Athabasca Basin uranium projects, including returning some very encouraging results this morning from Red Willow. So, Chris, you will have 15 minutes, and then we'll have a 5-minute Q&A session at the end. Everybody, please press the button and submit your questions. We'll get to as many as we can. So take it away, Chris.
Great. Thanks a lot, Dave. Yeah, it's pretty exciting here this morning. We've released some results from Red Willow and our Osprey zone in specific, where we're starting to work our way into a fairly significant area of mineralization, and it's wide open, and it's going to be an exciting winter, we think. I wanted to start off with a bit of information as to how we got here and look a little bit at last year. When the market started to pick up again in uranium, as Dave mentioned, we kind of pulled the sheet off of a lot of projects that we had that we've been maintaining for a while now. Some of them we haven't gone back and followed up on earlier discoveries. Some we really needed to take a new eye on, and some we just hadn't drilled at all. So after our Hook Lake drilling last winter, which is our joint venture with Cameco and Orano, we were able to get out to our Red Willow project and do some drilling at what we called the Hinge Zone, and then at our Geneva zone. In particular, at Geneva, we were able to start to see again an increase in a sort of a rhythm to the mineralization we were seeing there, and it's certainly on the list of things to go back to possibly this winter. But we'll see how things work out at Osprey first. Also, we got out to two projects that we had not drilled at all yet. Kind of that first pass drilling at Umfreville to the north, we were able to hit uranium in our first hole, 0.04% over 0.8 meters, which is very encouraging for a first pass. We'll be planning our follow up on that. And then near the end of the year, we were drilling at Henday, which again was an inaugural drill program. I can say that we were finding some fair amount of radiation at the unconformity, but we're not sure where we're going to be following up on that one yet. We're still waiting for some of the assays. This year, our focus is going to be on Red Willow and Turner Lake. At Red Willow, specifically at the Osprey zone, where in the past we've seen some significant indications of mineralization, and this morning the announcement of what we've seen so far in that drill program. We'll talk about that in a second. And then in the fall, we're looking to move on to Turner Lake, which is an area just to the west of Red Willow, a project that's been lit up in the past by Cameco and Orano, and more recently with IsoEnergy's Hurricane Zone. So we'll see how the year progresses, particularly as we see what else comes out of the Osprey zone. All of our other projects, which are 100% owned on the eastern side of the basin, are undergoing current review, and we'll be doing some additional geophysics and target definition out there as the year progresses. I did want to start with just a bit of a look at the industry in general and what we've been following and how we've been following it. On the left there, what you see in the pink dotted line is the average stock price move since last February of all of the stocks that trade in Toronto, the uranium stocks, kind of lined up against at the bottom in darker gray. You see there, that's the spot price of uranium. And I think in the first half of the year, we certainly didn't see a whole lot of correlation between that movement. But as the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust started acquiring uranium, raising money, and really acting as a market maker and tightening up that market, we started to see that the equities were started to move and react almost directly to changes in the spot price. And so it'll be exciting to see how that moves moving forward. In our case, what you see here in blue is the average share price change since February 1st of all of the explorers that currently trade in Toronto. And in orange, you see Purepoint's stock movements over that same period of time. Although we did see a big jump when we did our financing earlier in the year, we very quickly came right back in line with everybody. And I think if you line up anybody's stock price this last year in the same fashion, you'll find that we're all really traveling along that same route. The market is is re-rating the entire spectrum of uranium companies in the same sort of fashion. And what we're looking for, and what I think a lot of investors are looking for, is that breakout point when something changes significantly within the company that will take us out of that common run. And we think that a lot of the work we've been doing to date is really poised to make that move for us. Again, I'm going to start with Red Willow and the work we're doing here. We hold 100% ownership in the projects you see there on the right in orange. There's about 150,000 hectares there of project, and they are at a variety of different stages in the exploration cycle, which allows us to really continuously prioritize and make sure that we always have something to follow up on, and we're chasing the most prospective opportunities every time we do a little bit of work. We can take another look back on the western side of the basin. Our two joint venture projects with Cameco and Orano, Smart Lake and Hook Lake. We'll go into a little bit more detail on Hook and what we're doing there, but though Hook Lake really has been our flagship project for a while now, particularly during the period of languishing uranium prices, and with the discoveries out there and our neighbors and our good partners, it's been a really good project for us to operate during that time. But now we're moving, we're moving forward on these other projects, and we're going to start with Red Willow. So what you see in the circles there are the various zones that we've identified for drilling. It's a fairly large project. It's more than 40,000 hectares right on the edge of the basin. It's right on that mine trend that runs up the eastern side of the Athabasca Basin. And the ones in gray have not yet been drilled, but they're on the list. So our focus really has been Osprey, and then secondarily Geneva and Radon Lake. And what we announced this morning, to show you here, the map on the right shows the graphitic unit that's hosting the mineralization we've been running into. Our drilling started down here at this curve, and this is where we were hitting fairly high and consistent levels of uranium mineralization. We peaked 04 at 8,800 counts per second, and 06 at 33,000 counts per second. The distance, we're right up here now drilling at 10 and 11. That distance is about 325 meters, which is a fairly long step out. When you typically will fit a fairly large deposit within about 100 meters of land area. So that's certainly a wide step out. And to the north of hole 10, where we currently are, we've got about 2 kilometers of additional target area that we'll be moving into systematically over the remainder of the winter. What we've seen is that the mineralization is fairly flat lying. It's been fairly consistent as we move along the target area. And what we're doing is we are looking for a more complex structure and an opportunity for a larger resource to form and deposit to form. That's the approach. So we will be systematically moving up, moving up that zone. I should point out that about halfway down this map here is property that we didn't own last time we were out there drilling it at the Osprey zone. That is a project, an area that we staked a few years back, subsequent to the drilling. So we have picked up all of this area, and it is all at this point untested. So we've got a long way to go. The drilling is rather shallow, so it's quick. We're able to really start moving now that we've got a bit of a pace going. And the only thing that should slow us down is things freezing up or breaking down, or the weather. So hopefully we'll be able to continue drilling right through to the end of March and maybe into April if the weather allows. And then depending on our findings and how broadly we can expand the uranium in this area, we may go back and continue drilling come the fall and really maintain our effort in this area rather than moving on. But we'll see. We'll see how things turn out moving forward. I'll also give you a show here of these are the downhole gamma results from a few of those holes. They top out here at 2,000. So obviously these peaks sorry, the peaks here go much higher than the 2,000 in these two cases, 33,000 and 8,800. But what we have seen is that it is happening at a common depth. So we are seeing at about 60, 70 meters of depth. We're seeing this mineralization continue. And between that and the rock types and the settings that we're also be able to identify, it gives us something to follow, something to chase, and something to move along. So we can systematically continue in this direction and look for that larger deposition area. Should we get to it? I guess this fall we hope to get out to Turner Lake. That's the plan. Turner Lake as well sits along that mine trend. It's just to the west of Red Willow. And what makes it interesting is this Larock corridor, which runs up the western side of it, which is identified by Arano's alligator showing in the south, the Larock showing of Cameco's 29.9% over 7 meters. And then more recently up to the north, IsoEnergy's hurricane zone, 33.9%, over 8.5 meters when they're better holes. So these dots are all about 8 kilometers apart. So this is a very, very long length of corridor, and it crosses our project right at the north. And in particular, we're looking at an area where there was a seismic study done some time ago by SMDC. And we know that right at the point where that seismic crosses the conductor, the target conductor, there's about 150 meter thrust fault there. So it's a great setting for mineralization, and we want to get up there and test that as soon as possible. That, and there's a few other, we have a number of other targets in this area that have yet to be looked at. So there's a lot of opportunity there as well. Before we move on here, then let's take a quick look at Hook Lake. This is our joint venture with Cameco and Orano. It's the one we've been focused on for some time now. And it's taken a bit of a different strategy right now. We've been focused on the Patterson corridor, which runs up the center of the project. It's identified by Fission's Triple R to the south, then Next Gen Zero deposit, our Spitfire deposit, and then we've continued the drilling on to the north throughout the project. What's interesting is the shift that we're now making in our strategy. And that is to say, this is a gravity survey that was done by the Geological Survey of Canada a few years back. It was released about 1.5 years ago. The purple here represents gravity highs, the blue gravity lows. This blue body here is the Clearwater domain, which is a major domain structural change, rock type change in Saskatchewan. And what we've been able to see from all the work we've done is that wherever this mineralization does occur, be it at these deposits or even to the north that we were drilling and was finding additional mineralization, it always occurs at that transition between the high and the low gravity. So in amongst this yellow area, the yellow and green. The other thing that they had identified at the survey was that the Clearwater domain was probably the heat source for the mobilization of the uranium, and that the uranium would have been mobilized and moved south in that fashion, looking for a place to fall out into deposition. And that, in fact, was the Patterson corridor. What we are now moving towards is just to the west is the Carter corridor. It is it's a length of target that we actually started drilling on about 10 years ago. We had one drill program there, and it predates any of the other findings in the area. So after that first drill program, we quickly moved over to Patterson when things started to light up. But what we now know, because we were not looking for basement hosted deposits at the time, was that first drill hole was hitting a lot of alteration and was hitting spiky radioactivity at about 50 meters depth, which is where we've always seen our mineralization occurring along Patterson. So it's the type of hole and the type of drilling program that would have really excited us as we were over at Patterson. But now that we look at it in hindsight and we realize that it's closer to the heat source, it actually stands in front of the rest of the Patterson over here. So a lot of the heat source would have driven uranium towards Triple R, towards Arrow. This could well be one of the best opportunities for a tier 1 deposit in the basin right now. And we'll be doing additional geophysical work, airborne deep sensing geophysical work to define our targets a little more granular. and then we'll be coming forth with a drill proposal later in the year. I think I am quickly running out of time, so I'll leave that over to David.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Great presentation. So let's kick off the Q&A portion of the presentation. Is your strategy to advance all your projects in the pipeline, or are there really one or two projects that you'd like to see the bulk of your attention focused on?
Well, I think we want to see the attention put where we think the biggest opportunities. And to be honest, right now, it's Hook Lake, and it is Red Willow, the Osprey Zone, where we're probably have seen the most, the most uranium, the most traceable sort of opportunity so far. And in fact, one of the things that excites us about Osprey is the fact that what we're moving into looks exactly like what it looked like when we were moving into Spitfire. So, we're really recognizing the settings, and we're recognizing what these things look like as we get close to them. So that's pretty exciting. That will be our focus. The other projects, to the extent we can, we want to advance them in tandem. We certainly have the bandwidth to do so. We are in discussions with a few groups that would be interested in possibly earning in on some of those projects and advancing them. I think during this time of where there is much more capital available for exploration in uranium that there has been in the past, it may serve us well to allow other groups the opportunity to raise that money and to invest that money in these projects so we can get as many of them going as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that Red Willow Osprey Zone, that's a rather long trend, I think 3.5 to 4 kilometers. You say it looks like Spitfire. Are you expecting it to look a lot like some nearby mines as well? Either Jeb or Eagle Point?
Well, what we're seeing is it is fairly flat lying at this point. And what we saw as we were walking into Spitfire was the same sort of increase in uranium in terms of how it would have been mobilized. It's, again, we're looking for the structure, which would have been ideal for its settling in. So what it looks like, to compare it to something else is hard to say. It really depends on the structure that it finds at the end of the day. I think all I can say is, though, that the rock type, the depth at which we're seeing the uranium settling in at this point, and where it sits on the west side of the graphite body, all these things are reminiscent of what we saw as we were moving along, trying to expand Spitfire, and we eventually, of course, hit it and was able to then do a deep dive on what was going on there.
Right. Okay. Turning attention to Turner Lake, you have a lot of conductors there as well. Will you be testing along trend of ISO's hurricane zone specifically? And does that thrust fault remind you of Cameco's McArthur River mine? Is that something you're targeting?
Well, yeah, sure, for sure. A couple of things. I mean, it's like I said, this is a very long corridor up this side of the project, and I didn't mention this before, but you see this S-shaped. It's a granitic dome in the center of it that everything sort of wraps around. So there's obviously been some very significant movement in the area. There's obviously been a significant mineralization event occur up the western side of it all. This area in the north is, this is the trend, this is the corridor. So that it will be our primary focus of getting up there, because as of yet it's untested. So we haven't put a hole in it yet. The thrust fault is, of course, very reminiscent of Key Lake, McArthur. There's others where you see, again, we're always looking for that structure and that place where mobilized uranium can come out of mobilization and rest. And that tends to be, that would be the most opportune spot. So our drilling at Turner will start here, most likely. The other areas we're looking at is down in the southeast corner. This is actually Turner Lake down here. And those conductors that run down, and there's been a number of uranium holes drilled just to the south here by Orano. Historically, none of this has been properly tested either. So that's another secondary area we want to get down to.
Okay, just we have 30 seconds here. So Hook Lake, if that Clearwater domain is providing the heat source, would you expect more mineralization parallel to that entire domain boundary? So essentially giving you more potential along the Patterson Lake corridor, or should you be closer to it at Carter?
Well, I think what we're looking at is if the mobilized uranium was coming from the Clearwater domain, it had a clear shot down here to Triple R. It had a pretty clear shot to Arrow. This is the structure here that would have been the first one it hit. So what we're seeing is, although we have been finding uranium mineralization all the way up this corridor, it's been consistently getting weaker as we move to the north. That's probably because it all stopped here. I'd like to think. So yeah, absolutely. We think that this corridor is now the place to go back to. Now that we understand in great detail the settings of all of this stuff we've seen along Patterson, we know exactly how and what we're looking for over on Carter. And having been closer to the heat source, it's anything's possible there.